Yo, it's Bam Bam Mo back with media. So God doesn't need you perfect, right? God doesn't want you to be perfect. The Most High doesn't want somebody that thinks they're perfect. Because if you're perfect, how would I ever change and refine you into the being that you need to be, right? So when people talk about consciousness and they talk about spirituality, you tend to see an egotistical points of views come out of these religions, out of these different system or dogmatic systems that come from even people that claim they're spiritual. They have these spiritual systems where they become almost religious, like, right? So when you talk about being in tune with the Most High, being in connection with the Most High, being a part of the Most High or the order of the Most High, what you understand is this. You understand that, you go through the pain or you go through this transformation or this fire to achieve this transformation, right? You go through this fire to achieve what they call, purity. So there is something called perfection. There's something called purity, right? Perfection is just wholeness. That is the Most High. That is what we call the all in its source of in its completeness, in its wholeness, in its fullness, right? And then you have what you call purity. And purity is what only a human can only be as pure as they can. They can never be perfect. A human can be pure. So they go and become pure by going through the dark night of the soul, by going through their different negative emotions, and to be able to balance those emotions, to be able to once able to balance those emotions or go through the fire or achieve the eternal soul, right? Which is basically like the green fire. If you talk about the ethers or you talk about the green ether particles, you understand that you're tapping into the force of the 0 point energy, right? You're tapping into the force of the heart to be able to go to the higher chakras, right? So what I'm saying is, in order for you to be able to master the 7 chakras, you have to first get through the heart chakra. You can only get through the heart chakra by going through this transformation, this alchemical transformation. This is why when we talk about thoughts of Hootie, we talk about these different beings. Jesus, even when he says, be transformed, right? You're supposed to be transformed by the renewing of your mind, right? So you're being transformed. And what does repent mean? Repent means to change your mind. So everything is about how you change your mind, and your mind will affect your emotions, and your emotions affects matter, so forth and so on. You can look at it many different ways and different angles. But what you're doing and understanding is that as long as I acknowledge my connection to the Most High and I start to do the work on myself, then this transformation will occur. And now you went through the fire, and that fire had changed you into a newly developed being. So therefore, the people who don't go through this transformation or the self or the shadow work, or go through the period of what we call the magnum opus, which is the great work, then they will never understand what it means to be on a higher intellect or have a higher awareness when it comes to spirituality. So when you're going and teaching people about nature or the ability for matter to be manifested from nature, you got to understand that they need to understand that they are nature. And that's the first thing. Once you understand you are nature, you will start to connect back to natural nature. And you understand that there is no other God force than natural nature itself. So understand that connection. It's not just nature that comes with the plants, but the forces that actually grew those plants. You feel what I'm saying? It's not just the air in the sky. It's the forces that actually manifested that air. It's not just the sun that you see up in the heavens. It's what manifested that sun. You feel what I'm saying? So you start to see things as cause and effect. What we say is causation, and causation will lead to an effect, and effect will be what you are seeing. And that's what vibration and frequency is and understanding that the only way I can start to raise that seed back up and to master my fire, internal fire, is by going through that self-transformation. Yo, it's Bam Bam Mo back with media.